Nostalgia. It's a hell of a thing. It's also a very powerful resource that the industry has been relying on for years now. For better or for worse. Most recently in the form of remakes. One could say that the industry's gone a little rampant with the whole remake thing, but it definitely is fun seeing all the kinds of ways that old classics can get modernized. Oh, what? Crash 4? Oh my god! He has shoulders now. Developers are always trying to evoke memories from games past to try and tap into what made those hits so great in the first place. In some cases, new games can improve on an old game's formula, like in the case of Sonic Mania. It's a tough thing to come swinging out the bat with a game that not only resonates with a lot of people, but also stands the test of time. We all know the kinds of titles I'm talking about. Your Super Metroids, your Bioshocks, your Mario Golfs, huh? Games that define a genre, a console, a feeling, or even a fucking arm swing. I'm talking about those instant classics that just cannot quit popping up in gaming discussions no matter where you go. Games that remind you of staying up all night as a kid, the TV lighting up the room while everyone was asleep, as you realize that no matter how hard you try, you can't magically jump through your TV to join that mid-40s plumber on the other side. Well, I haven't exactly gotten around to playing a lot of those games. Here's the thing, no one has really played every great legacy title out there, except for maybe this guy. God knows his work is cut out for him. My last two gaming videos really got me thinking of all the classics that I missed out on when I was younger, so I decided that I would grab some off my shelf and dive in. What better time to take a look at some beloved titles than after hearing thousands of opinions on them from strangers on the web.
Disclaimer.
I didn't beat all the games that I'm going to be talking about, nor do I feel that you have to beat them to form the opinions that you're about to hear. Shipping and handling is processed separately, and please tip your servers. I'm going in pretty blind as far as things go. I'm really eager to see what all the clamoring is about, and to see if I have any drastically differing opinions on some of these games. Listen, if you guys disagree with anything I'm about to say, get over it. Or just yell at me in the comments. Without further ado, here's my take on some classic games without the nostalgia. For some reason, a long time ago, Nintendo decided that jumping on shit was fun, so fun that the entire gaming industry couldn't stop jumping on anything with a pulse for 15 years. Enter Donkey Kong Country. A title I have been long overdue in playing. At some point when I was a wee baby, I played the first level at a friend's house, and that was my entire exposure to the game for years. I did not know what I was missing out on. If you're on the internet for long enough, there are certain truths you come to accept about certain games after a while. I always knew that DKC was a pretty game, but playing it really cemented in me just how beautiful this game is. Everything in this game feels alive. If it weren't for the pixelation, I would have forgotten that it came from the 90s. I would stop in the middle of a level sometimes just to admire all the artwork. This game is just one long interactive painting to me. I know I don't have to gush about the music, seeing as there's probably more videos on this game than there are on, I don't know, Titanfall 2's movement system for example. I let Diddy do most of the driving during this playthrough. I mean, the kid saves DK in the next game. Who's really wearing the pants? Ty in the family? The amount of challenges this game throws at you is pretty insane. You're never going to be playing the same level twice. Minecart tracks with narrow jumps, tunnels where you have to keep the lights on, rope swinging for an entire level's length. The water levels weren't even that bad. They became way more entertaining when I imagined the Kongs suddenly gaining floating powers. A big standout for me was an auto-scroller, which I mean, who likes auto-scrollers? But you have to collect fuel to keep the platform going or you fall. Who thought of that? Even the levels where you're barrel blasting for 90% of them were fun. There's almost a musical rhythm to the platforming here, and you enter this flow state in the back half trying your best not to screw your run over. I have to be honest for a second. I was completely unaware of the fake out in King K's boss fight. I felt like such a banana peel having to replay this fight, and it's not a walk in the park your first go around. Donkey Kong Country is definitely a classic. I'm surprised it took me this long to get around to this game, considering how much I love platformers. I'm excited to move on to the sequel with all the buzz that game gets. But for real, fuck you, K-Rool.
For a brick, he flew pretty good.
Ooh boy, I played this game before, but I did not grow up with it. I hated this game for a long time, and for no good reason really. I mean, come on, who wants to play as the Arbiter?
No offense, but I see a lot of you guys firing from the hip.
I still kinda think the story is a whole bunch of and is it just me, or is this game uglier than the first? There's something about the visuals from this sequel that seems like they'd be promised to look better at an E3 presentation. Wait a minute! I feel bad knocking this game considering its shaky production. I mean, they rebuilt the game from scratch a year before releasing. The crunch was very real for Bungie following "you can shoot on controllers now, a space odyssey." My recent playthrough found me flipping a couple of my thoughts about this game, and yes, despite my problems with the presentation, I skipped the anniversary version because, blah. Other than the cutscenes, the updates aren't that special. All the guns look like plastic toys. I've never really taken the time to appreciate how much faster and smoother Halo 2 is than the rest of the trilogy. The combat really is swift and punchy, and when you're in the thick of it, tension really builds considering how fast you die in this one. The weapons here feel the best out of the original trilogy, and during the fun levels, it has some of the most interesting level designs in the whole series. Big asterisk on fun levels. I played on Heroic, and it was definitely the most frustrating run I've done on a Halo game that wasn't on Legendary. I mean, this game has some cheap checkpoints that really put your knowledge of the enemy spawns to the test. The good levels in Halo 2 are really something, but the bad levels are pretty awful. I never want to touch anything having to do with the Flood in this game with a 10-foot golf club? I'm glad I replayed it because I kinda wrote it off as the bad Halo game years before 343 came along, but it was surprisingly fun for what it was, when I wasn't praying to The Last of Us 2 reviews to make the Flood disappear. Forever. Finally, a Halo game without Flood. Son of a bitch! Play Mega Man 3 instead. I have to talk about Sonic.
Say something, you fake hedgehog!
Okay, we all know the Blue Falcon, whether it be from Smash, the fact that a solid percentage of his games are just awful. Oops, did I say that out loud? Or from his rivalry with Fat Tony over there back in the 90s. Now, Sonic 2 is a game I owned and played a ton of as a kid. I could never get past Aquatic Ruin, but I loved it to pieces. By the way, the Emerald Hill theme is far and away better than the Green Hill Zone theme. Please, send me a boxing glove in the mail if you can't accept the truth. The Adventure series also has a special place in my heart, but Sonic 3 wasn't ever really on my radar. I often hear that it's the best of the original trilogy, and seeing as some of my favorite levels from Mania come from 3, I figured trying this out was a no-brainer. And no, before I go on, I did not play Knuckles along with this game. Alright, how do I put this lightly? This game isn't that fun. I mean, I'm sorry, but I played this right after DKC, I don't know what I was expecting. You can't really compare the two, but yeesh, it certainly didn't help. The opening acts are pretty good and give a decent first impression, but it all went downhill when I reached Marble Garden Zone. See, it's so boring I couldn't even remember the name of it. I don't think it's a bad game or a game that you should pass up by any means, but there was nothing really making me want to see the game through. The casino zone is claustrophobic, and the ice zone brings some fun back into it, but the momentum is just missing in this game. I was kinda being literal when I mentioned Sonic Mania earlier. At some point, I switched over to Replay Mania for like the 5th time, and it solved every issue I had with this game. Every issue. Like every single one. It's fast. Look at all the frames on his animations. Go play Sonic Mania. Something something, and the cake wasn't there the whole time. Oh, look who still has a sense of humor in 2020. This game was a big deal when it first came out. The story behind how it came to be is fascinating. A couple of college kids made this game in Orbacular Drop as their final senior project. The setting is something drastically different from what Portal came to be, but the Portal tech was in full display and Valve offered them jobs over at, and gave them the opportunity to make an entire game around their idea. We all know how cool it was that first time we shot a portal and walked through it. But this title was kind of a shock, simply because I was unaware of how short this game is. I beat it in one session, just a couple hours, no biggie. I mentioned this just to say that I expected something a little meatier than this. Don't get me wrong, I loved it. I mean, it's Portal. I'm a dunderhead, so some of these test chambers threw me for a loop, but I was left kinda shocked at how straightforward this game was. I played Portal 2 before this, and I really enjoyed the writing in it, so to see that a lot of the flair was stripped back felt a little weird. Solving the test chambers was great though, and hearing Gladys... Sorry, what was that? I mistook her for some little old lady. I meant hearing GLaDOS mock you the further you got was really entertaining. The game also does a great job of teaching you about the different ways you'll be solving puzzles, so most of the chamber solutions feel well within your grasp, but they leave enough room for you to think about exactly how you're gonna get past it.
Are you kidding? Are you kidding?
I'm kind of hung up on just how brief this game is, though. I really wanted more. Well, I guess it would be appropriate to cut this segment short then. I mean, it's not like... Nope.
Thanks. When we get out of here, drinks are on me.
Yeah, hey, I know a good bar.
Come on, you can't tell me the first time you watched this scene you got through it with a straight face. Here it is, the game that prompted me to make this video.
Resident Evil 4!
Ow. This game was an instant classic the moment it came out. For years this game intimidated me to no end. For one, because it was my first experience with a violent video game. I never played it until this year, but I have Resident Evil 4 to thank for countless nightmares as a kid, anytime I saw footage of it. The main reason though was the can't move and shoot stipulation, which made me question how anyone could ever get through this game in one piece. This sort of claim gets thrown around all the time, but man, this game really does deserve to be touted as one of the greats. It never gets boring, for me at least. I mean, the main mission is to save the president's daughter. Really? You send one guy? Get the hell out of town. There's so many batshit moments in this game that are all cheesily acted and memorable, but are we just gonna ignore the fact that Leon slaps an oil drum out of the way with his bare hands? This game does not take itself seriously at all. This game is every crappy B-movie with bad acting and awful effects, but damn it, it pulls it off with flying colors. It's full of, charm, if that's what you want to call it. Now, having played it, I'm not surprised at the amount of praise that it gets. This game never gets stale. The level design ended up being my favorite aspect of Resident Evil 4. You're shooting your way through 95% of this game, but they keep it engaging with all the locales and scenarios that they throw at you. Not being able to shoot and move, but maintaining an action style, keeps the tension way up in this game. Let's be honest, this game isn't that scary. Except for the regenerators. Jesus Christ, these things are the personification of the Sonic drowning music. They managed to maintain the sense of fear from the past titles with the enemies and the controls. Leon plants his ass firmly like a tree in the ground anytime he needs to shoot something. His reload times are less than desirable, and his top speed consists of a careful jog. All this, coupled by the fact that most of the enemies come in numbers, means you are always on edge, trying your best not to get overwhelmed by the odds. Ammo isn't as scarce as before, but you still need to keep a count on those shots. Half the time you even have to make sure Ashley doesn't get kidnapped all the way to hell. Who decided to animate this? I need names! All of the locations are memorable, and Capcom did such a fine job of pacing this game perfectly. They never make you feel like you're just mindlessly shooting your way through hordes of what appear to be old people. Yeah, there's a little too much breaking shit with your knife for ammo, but RE4 was a treat to play. I already want to go for another playthrough and try to see how fast I can get through the game. If you're at all interested in playing it, I would just say go for it because there's a strong chance you'll get something out of it. Well, I guess since this is a YouTube video talking about RE4, I have to mention that the inventory is like Tetris, right? Honestly, all the hype surrounding RE4 really made the experience kind of interesting considering I thought I knew what I was going in for, but this was one of those cases where the game really did a number on me, in a good way. I think the nostalgia that follows some of these titles is well deserved, for the most part. Besides, I always find it really fun to look back at gaming history. It makes me wonder what other games I'm missing out on. I guess that's what a backlog is for, right? Well, I never finished Half-Life. I kind of want to play Portal 2 again.
Sonic 4
Last
any
of Us
good?
2
I
did
want
just
Mega Man
come
Legends
out.
3.
You guys
Already
really
have
crash
Crash
me
4,
right now?
baby.
Ooh. Pac-Man RPG? Alright, that's it. I'm gonna keep it to one at a time. If you guys have any games that you've written off or just have sitting around, give them a shot. Put them in the console and see what happens. I mean, they're classics for a reason, right? You never know what could be waiting inside. Nolan, you rascal.